I'm Webb, Policy Director with Common Cause North Carolina, and these are 5 things you need to know in North Carolina politics this week. Number 1, we're more than a month into North Carolina's new fiscal year, and the legislature has still failed to pass a new state budget. On Thursday, legislative leaders said budget negotiations between the Republican-controlled House and Senate could drag on for even more weeks, although they expressed optimism that a deal will be struck. The lack of a new budget creates uncertainty around pay raises for teachers and state employees, Medicaid expansion, and funding for North Carolina's election system, among many other critical spending areas. Meanwhile, no movement on other bills is expected in the week ahead, as legislative leaders continue to focus on budget wrangling. Number 2. While the General Assembly has been taking a summer break amid bogged-down budget negotiations, a group of North Carolina legislators recently attended a conference in Florida hosted by the American Legislative Exchange Council, also called ALEC. Around 40 of North Carolina's 170 state legislators are members of ALEC, according to a report by the Raleigh News and Observer. ALEC is a lobbying group funded by corporate special interests that promotes conservative agendas around the country. Its so-called model legislation has shaped dozens of controversial bills in North Carolina over the last decade, including several in this year's session. Among those proposals is a dangerous call for a new constitutional convention that could lead to a radical rewrite of the U.S. Constitution. Another ALEC-promoted policy that is now in effect here in North Carolina is photo voter ID. Number 3, with this year's local elections in North Carolina comes the implementation of a new photo voter ID requirement. Among the acceptable forms of ID are a North Carolina driver's license, a U.S. passport, military or veterans ID cards issued by the federal government, and college student and public employer ID cards that the State Board of Elections has approved for use in voting. Registered voters who do not have an acceptable form of identification for voting can now get a free photo ID from their County Board of Elections office. No special documents are needed. Voters can go to their County Board of Elections office, provide their name, date of birth, and the last 4 digits of their Social Security number, and have their photo taken. Voters can also get a free ID from the North Carolina DMV. To learn more about acceptable forms of voter ID, visit ncvoterguide.org. Voters will also be permitted to cast a provisional ballot if they do not have an ID, and may submit an exception form explaining why they weren't able to obtain a voter ID. Number 4. Student leaders from North Carolina's 10 historically Black colleges and universities convened in Greensboro this week for the 9th annual HBCU think tank, organized by Common Cause NC and the North Carolina Black Alliance. The 3-day conference allowed student leaders to network and collaboratively address issues affecting HBCUs and Black youth, as well as develop ways to strengthen civic engagement on their campuses and empower young people to make their voices heard in our democracy. Number 5. The Unite NC Town Hall Tour rolled on this week with stops in High Point, Fayetteville, and Rockingham County. The statewide tour is organized by a coalition of nonpartisan grassroots organizations, including Common Cause North Carolina. The town halls feature the voices of local residents sharing their views on this year's legislative session, speaking out on issues that matter most to them, and holding lawmakers accountable to the public. Learn more and see upcoming stops on the Unite NC Town Hall Tour, including in Kannapolis and Gibsonville, at ccnc.me/UniteNC. Those were 5 things you need to know in North Carolina politics this week. Join us online anytime at commoncausenc.org.